In today's video, we're going to be discussing airport travel as a blind or visually impaired person. Come with us, let's go discuss it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's great to see you again. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing airport travel as a blind or visually impaired person. So if you've been watching some of the videos lately, you've seen that we were just on vacation in Aruba and we arrived home late Saturday night, and we wanted to share our airport experience with you, the one that we experienced in Aruba specifically. And we thought it was valuable enough that we would create this video and give you some tips and tricks if you are traveling through an airport as a blind or visually impaired person. So I'm actually here joined by
Corey. Hi, guys.
She likes that part, so
He likes it.
yeah. So we wanted to discuss our experience in the airport, the international airport in Aruba. So one thing that we do, so when we go to the airport, I always have my cane with me. And before we walk in, I always pull the cane out and make sure I have it, in my hand. So when we walked into the airport in Aruba, I had my cane out like we always do, and it was very congested. We were leaving on a Saturday, and weekends are very, very busy down there because it's just a popular time for people to come and go, and it was thick with people, wouldn't you say?
It was really, really congested.
Very congested. There were long lines, people everywhere. So we always go to the wheelchair line or, the disability line.
Or the priority line.
Priority line.
Sometimes it's called like the priority line or
exactly.
first class line if they don't have anything else that looks good. We just literally pick
Yep.
any line.
So that is one tip for you. Exactly. So when you arrive at the airport and so some airlines, they have these little self-serve kiosks where you just go and you print your own boarding pass if you just have carry-ons and you don't have a check bag. But there's other airlines, and they also do have a ticket counter where you can go and actually speak to a human. But otherwise, there are other airlines where they have the ticket counter. So they have like the general population line where that's typically really long where, most people go into those. But otherwise, like Corey was saying, they do have the wheelchair line, the disability line, or otherwise they do have like a priority line, a first class line, or what would another one be? Like a rewards or medallion or something.
Yeah.
Like people that have rewards with these airlines. So anyway, if it's like one of these designated lines for people who have priority, we also sometimes go in that line too if it's available.
And there's not a specific like handicap or disability
exactly
line.
And even if there is, sometimes you can just go right in that line. So that's one trick.
But here's why you do that. And it's not just to cut in line so you don't have to wait as long. The reason why like a visually impaired person would benefit from using this line is because almost 100% of the time, the disability priority, whatever line it is a straight shot from like the entrance of the airport to the service desk.
Exactly.
And the other lines, you do like hairpin turns and snake around. And so between like those line dividers that have those like big discs on the bottom, it's just so much to trip over. And so the reason that we do the priority or the disability line is because it's so much less of a tripping hazard for me and Matt. Yep. Especially in an airport where you have luggage, you don't want to touch other people, you don't want to be like causing trouble. So that's why you should choose that line. And that's I just wanted to clarify that.
Exactly. And that's why those lines are there. They're there to be used for us. I mean, that's why they have it a straight shot like that. So you can actually just walk straight to the counter versus zigzagging through those roped lines that we were talking about.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
So much easier. So that's one of the tricks is go straight through that line. The priority line is a straight shot. You're served almost immediately. When they see someone there, there's typically like a designated agent for those people in the line, and you just go right to that person. So that's one thing. And then when you go and you speak to that person, when you check in and hand over your bags to be checked, or you're just having them print your boarding pass, be sure to, when you booked your ticket, if you didn't elect on your ticket that you're blind, be sure to tell the agent that you are blind. I'm guessing that you would probably be traveling with a person, or if not, if you're traveling alone, regardless of the situation, be sure to tell that agent of your visual disability or impairment, and then at the same time ask that person for an escort. That's the key, asking for an escort.
This is the
Like
ticket to happiness,
riches,
saved marriages,
popularity,
It is the best thing we've ever
kingdoms.
done. Yeah, so we've been traveling together for 4 years, we'll say. Actually, about exactly 4 years.
Sure, yeah,
And
actually, yeah.
we've taken a few different trips in that time, and it has taken us up to this point to figure out the escort service at the airport.
So the escort is a brand new thing to us. Actually, I used it one time way before Corey, and my escort was actually my dad. I didn't know it was such a thing. I didn't know you could elect someone and not hire, but you could get someone from the airport to actually be the escort. But anyway, Corey and I have found out little tips and tricks throughout the years, like how to make airport travel a little bit easier.
Such as like using the priority line.
Yep, using priority lines, using the wheelchair line, just different things like that. But this one is key, getting an escort. So when you get to that service counter, when you're going to print your boarding pass, ask that agent immediately at that first counter, ask for an escort. And that is key. So when we were in Aruba, we checked in and we got our boarding pass, and then we asked for an escort. And how did we know about that?
We knew about that because the last time we were in Aruba, we went into the disability line where there was no people.
We got in trouble.
And we got in big trouble.
Well, we didn't get in big trouble.
They kind of freaked out.
They lectured us a little bit.
And we were not in a good place.
Yeah.
And
so that's how we know. Yeah, we learned the hard way.
There was an escort available.
Yep.
By doing it wrong.
Exactly. Okay, so when we asked for the escort, I think she maybe made a phone call or something.
No,
but anyway,
it was super easy. So all that happened was, maybe she did make a phone call.
Either way, she contacted someone, and someone arrived very quick.
An angel from Aruba.
Yeah, a little fun guy.
The best guy. If
arrived.
we knew his name and we could send him this video, we would.
Yep. So what we did is he met us, he shook our hands, introduced himself, and kind of explained just real briefly what he would be doing. Basically, he was going to be our chaperone from point A to our gate, which was pretty dang sweet. We felt like kings.
I know, we felt like
I felt like a king.
But so this is what happened, is he took our passports, he wrote down Matt's information. We were traveling with Matt's parents, and we learned that we were only allowed to have one person besides Matt with the escort.
So it was me plus a companion.
Yeah, and I was the companion. So
because we were trying to bring my parents along with, but they had to stand in all the lines because they weren't included. Yeah. So I could only bring Corey.
Yeah, which is fine. But
she's lucky I brought her. I was about to trade her in.
I was so lucky. It was the best experience of my life. So we and then at this point too, he offered us a wheelchair, which actually Matt has been offered a wheelchair a few times.
I have.
Because they don't understand that he can walk.
But I think that's just what the standard protocol is just offer a wheelchair and then we can decline.
I think so.
Yep.
But if you want the wheelchair, literally,
feel free.
Do it.
Actually,
heck, I would have gotten in that wheelchair if I could have.
Just to digress for just a second, I traveled by myself, I don't even know, maybe 6 or 7, 8 years ago by myself. And it was when I had a little bit better vision, but my vision was still pretty bad. And I was actually traveling by myself, and when I was at one of the airports, the escort guy who was helping me, he actually just brought a wheelchair, and he's like, here, sit down. And I was like, no, really, I can just walk. He's like, no, sit in the chair. And I sat there, and he pushed me all around the airport. It was really awkward, but...
And maybe it's a safety protocol, or escorts have to make you go in a wheelchair. I don't...
But I actually have done that, and it was pretty slick. I just sat there.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is don't feel bad riding in a wheelchair. Feel glad riding in a wheelchair. I was going to say a bad word. Feel pretty tough and... Yeah.
So anyway, let's get back on track. So this guy, he took our passports, shook our hands, met us, and then he... so we got rid of our checked bag, and then we basically just followed him. So in Aruba, the interesting thing is there are a ton of lines. Not only is there the check-in counter, but there's security. And then you, after that, at some point, you go through customs. Typically, when you're flying back to the U.S., you go through customs when you get back to your destination here in the States. But in Aruba, you actually go through customs first, and then you go through security again.
And then you get your luggage again.
At some point in there, you pick up your luggage that you dropped off, and you recheck it. So it's like you're doing everything literally twice.
It's like the same thing twice, and it's very confusing. We did it as a sighted person. I think every sighted person we saw looked crazy mad because they were like, "This is ridiculous." So what was cool is the guy took our passports, and he basically just handled everything.
Yep.
When we were at the border control or whatever it is, he just showed him our stuff. The guy asked us questions, took our picture, did that.
Oh yeah.
But he was completely in control of our passports. Like, I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
But then when we were walking, tell what happened.
So what was really nice about this guy is he was escorting, so he was leading the way. Corey was behind him. Depending on the situation, if we were able to walk side by side, Corey and I would walk side by side. I had my cane in my right hand, Corey holding on my left hand, and the escort was leading the way. When we were single file, once again, the escort in front, Corey, and then I would kind of follow behind with my cane in my right hand, and I'd usually like hold on to Corey's backpack or something like that. But what was nice is when we'd arrive at a line, there was either a way, I don't know how this worked, if he went around the line or if there was a separate line, like a wheelchair line that he went into, but he would just stand there and he'd say, move to the right, move to the right, move to your right. And he'd just like announce, like bark at people, get out of the way, here we come, move to the right. And he was just like barking orders at people the whole time, and everyone would like scamper to the right. And here we come just like
out of the way, like with their Louis Vuitton luggage, like they would literally fly to the right, like plastered against the wall. And we were like,
and there's like, it's like,
it was like part of the Red Sea. It was unbelievable.
People were like, I mean, they should have been like laying down a red carpet, really,
I was like, I felt like a Kardashian or like.
Come on, Kardashian? That's an insult, Corey.
I felt like a famous person.
Yeah, come on. Anyone better than Kardashians?
I
anyway.
It was cool. And we both felt like giggling, but we couldn't because we wanted to be respectful.
We wanted to laugh because it was such a cool experience that this guy was just like yelling at people to get out of our way. Mm-hmm. And it's not like we were trying to feel like we were better than everybody else, but it was more like, this is what this service is for. And it was really cool to see this playing out as it would. So every line that we got to, whatever line we were doing, whether he had like a separate little entrance where he'd go around the whole big line where there's 300 people waiting, or probably more than that.
Honestly, there's
in a single line. I mean, there's hundreds of people waiting in line, and we'd go around it, or we'd go like right along the side of it, and he would just yell at people to get out of the way. And meanwhile, we would just walk right through.
And then what was cool too is like as we would go past like duty free or a restaurant or a bar, he would like tell us, like he was like the literal sighted guide of our dreams. He'd be like, duty free, and then he'd like tell us all the stuff about duty free, or like, if you'd like to go to Sbarro here you can, or there's one downstairs where you'll be at your gate. And it was just like, gal, I don't have to do anything.
It was really nice because he was pointing out restrooms, restaurants, he was pointing out duty frees, little shops, and he was telling us how to navigate it. So not only was he escorting us, but he was also being like somewhat of a tour guide and telling us the best and most efficient way to navigate the airport while we were there. Mm-hmm. So it was actually really nice in the perspective of a blind and visually impaired person to know, like, okay, you know, here we are and there's a pizza shop right here. So it made it like, really helpful.
Yeah, like for somebody, I mean, I don't know what kind of disabilities he usually works with, but he did such a good job for a blind person that it was just amazing.
And he was really good at dictating what was going on around us as far as like, here's this line. And what was really nice too, so getting back a little bit on track, what we were doing, when we'd get to these lines, he would walk up to the counter. So let's say, for example, like the customs counter. He would walk up, he would display our passports for us, he would talk to the agent, he would pull out my certificate of legal blindness, show it to them, and then when it was time for us to go up and answer questions or have our picture taken or whatever it was, we would go up and then he would stand off to the side, we would do what we needed to do, and then we would reconvene. And then it was really easy. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, when we went through security, he brought us to a separate line. He got our little bins out. He grabbed our shoes. He grabbed my belt. He held all of our stuff. He helped us get through the line. And what was nice is he had Corey go through the line first. And then when it was my turn, he walked up next to me, held his hand out, kind of like his arm out, horizontal, and said, here, sir, hold my arm. So then I would hold his arm and he would walk me through like the metal detector. And then the agent on the other side would reach out their hand and then they would escort me through. And then the escort guy that we had would be on the other side with all of our, our little bins with all of our stuff in it. And he'd help us transfer to a place where we could sit down and put everything back in our bags.
Yeah, it was cool. And I'm going to step in because Matt doesn't know some of these things that happened. So I actually had the certificate of legal blindness.
Oh, you did? Okay.
The whole time in my bag because we didn't need it. So we actually didn't need our certificate of legal blindness, though I think that that's very wise to travel with.
Yep. I always have it paper clipped in my passport.
Yeah. That's
in the
what
event I
he
ever
said.
need to display it, I always have a copy right there.
So we actually didn't need to show that. And in the security line, he just cut in line in front of people. And then we were like 3 ahead. We like only had to wait in line in front of 3 people.
Yeah.
So it was just really it was just really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was nice. Yeah. So like we said, we go through security twice. So the first time we went through, he helped us out. And then again, the second time we did the exact same thing and he helped us through security. It's just really nice because if you've ever been through an airport and you go through security, it's a little bit stressful. I imagine it's stressful for a sighted person too.
It is.
It's so chaotic. There's people everywhere. There's all kinds of commotion. And it's like,
well, and if it's
I
a
just
new
really
airport,
don't like doing it.
You don't know, when is this going to be over? Are we done with the lines already?
Yep.
You don't know, how far away your gate is. Airports are super stressful for everyone.
Yeah.
But imagine not being able to see.
And what was really nice too, so in this particular airport, you check your bag at the very first check-in counter, and then you have to grab your bag again and wheel it for a while, and then you self-check it again later in the airport. What was really nice about the escort is he brought us to where the carousel where the bag would be. He pulled it off. Corey identified, okay, there's our bag right there. He grabbed it, pulled it off, and he wheeled it through the airport for us, and then he went and checked it again for us. So it's like literally all we had to do was just walk and follow this guy.
Yeah.
And I had my cane out, so it helped, and it was just nice to have my cane out. Another thing that I like to do when I go through the airports is I always wear a Blind to Billionaire t-shirt, and the reason I do that is because read the shirt too, so people can see the shirt, they can see the cane, and they know what's going on. And what's actually funny is we had numerous people as we were walking through, cutting in front of every single line, walking through hordes of people.
Who were ticked. I mean, just to be there.
But anyway, as we were there, a lot of people would be like, oh, hey, I love the shirt. A lot of people said that.
It was
We've never had that much feedback on the
No.
shirts. So I would say the shirt in conjunction with the cane was very helpful.
Well, and I've worn my Blind to Billionaire shirts too. One of us usually will wear it. This time we both did. But it helps people just to kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
And actually I've noticed other people places will wear a button that says I'm visually impaired or I'm blind or whatever. And I've never totally paid that much attention to the value of that in a way until we wore those t-shirts last time. And it was well, the last couple trips we've only taken 2 trips since we've gotten those shirts, but it helps a lot.
The shirt is nice to have.
Yeah. It's just, if you guys have something like that when you travel or whatever, I think it just gives people a little more of a heads up.
Yep, definitely.
And then they don't think you're just cutting in line too.
Yeah. So then, what else? So then eventually we got to our gate. We arrived at the gate. And another thing, and you may probably already know this is a good trick, or not trick, but just tip, but when you arrive at your gate and they start boarding, they always have pre-board. So if you're interested, you can actually board the plane before anybody else. You can get on even before the first class people. So they'll usually make an announcement saying something along the lines of, we're going to start our pre-boarding for anybody who has small children or
requires extra time.
Requires extra time, exactly. You can board at that time. No excuses, you don't need to say anything. You can just get up and go board at that time. So we used to do that, and lately we haven't been, just because we haven't had carry-ons other than just our backpacks. But that's definitely a really nice perk that we have utilized many times in the past.
It's nice because then again, you're not fighting the crowds. You're just kind of have time, space.
You can get into your seat, kind of put everything away, get settled.
Actually,
and
another
just be
good
present.
part is like the flight attendants then will usually, because there's nothing else going on,
Yep.
we've oftentimes had flight attendants like talk to us and just kind of then they sort of know what's going on, which has actually been extremely helpful on the plane.
And another thing too is very important that I mentioned in the beginning of this video. When you mention to the ticket counter agent or when you book your ticket, mention or be sure to select the blind election. And the reason you want to do that is because it says it on your boarding pass, and the flight attendants can actually see that from their end that there's a blind passenger in seat 12A. So it's good for them to know. I mean, they can see that on their end. So they're aware of
even in
that.
the case of an emergency, really.
Yep.
I mean, then in the case of an emergency, if you're traveling alone or there's a lot going on, you know, they hopefully would like rescue you.
Yeah.
Or put your mask on.
Yeah. Do you have any other tips or tricks for the airport? Otherwise, I have one. Excuse me.
I think we've really covered it.
I have one more bonus tip.
I feel so good about it. I can't like wait to try it again.
Yeah.
Like seriously. And
right.
It just made it for like the two of us. Traveling with another person is stressful no matter if you love them or not. And our experience was so good for us. We didn't, you know, it's stressful. And we just didn't have any stress. It was unbelievable. For our own relationship, it was like, wow.
It was really nice. So to just give you a perspective of how long it took us compared to my parents. So we walked in, we checked in at the ticket counter, the Corey and I, and then my parents were right behind us. And it took Corey and I a half hour to go from point A to the gate. Half hour. It took my parents over 2.5 hours to go through the same thing, going through just the normal general population lines. Over 2.5 hours. And it took Corey and I think less than half an hour.
Literally, the time in the cab, it was 2:52. When we got to our gate, it was 3:27.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like a half hour. So yeah. I have one more bonus tip for you. I don't know if I should share this one. I mean, this is like my.
What you're gonna say.
This is my secret one.
I actually don't want you to say it because I think I know what you're gonna say.
I won't say it then. All right.
No, you have to
see
say
ya
it.
later.
You have to say
End
it.
of the video.
No,
Bye now.
You have to give the secret tip.
All right. So I'll give you the secret tip.
Just don't fly on a flight when you're using.
Yeah. Don't travel with us.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. The secret tip. What I do every time we book a flight, what I do is I typically call the airline. So let's say I'm booking with Delta. Delta is by far the best. They are really good at doing this. Actually, JetBlue is too. JetBlue is also awesome. Some of the other smaller airlines, they're not as convenient. They don't accommodate as much, but Delta and JetBlue, they're amazing. I'd highly recommend those two brands. But one thing, when we book a flight, what I do is I call the airline right away after the tickets are booked, and I say, hey, I have a flight, for whatever date, and then they always look me up, and then I say, I'm blind. Can you move me to the bulkhead seats? The bulkhead seats are the seats directly behind first class. Typically, they have a ton of leg room, so much leg room that you can sit there and I can extend my legs all the way out and I cannot even touch the wall in front of me.
On a Delta and JetBlue flight.
On a Delta and JetBlue flight, yep. On other brands, it's a little bit, it's significantly more leg room, but it's not that much. So anyway, ask to be upgraded to the bulkhead seats. Typically, they'll say, oh no, we can't do that. And say, yes, I'm blind, upgrade me to the bulkhead seats. And they say, yes, sir, we'll do that for you. So what I've found from my experience is you have to ask 2 times. The first time they'll say, oh no, you can't do that. And then you say, yes, I'm blind. Because they have those seats reserved for people who are blind or have a prosthetic leg.
Or a guide dog.
Or a guide dog. So that's what those seats are reserved for. There's 6 seats. Well, it's different with every plane. But the majority of planes, there's 6 seats, 3 on each side of the aisle. And those 6 seats are reserved for us. So just know that. That's a little trick. And then the only way you can be bumped from those seats is if somebody with a guide dog comes in and needs it, or there's
somebody with like a prosthetic leg.
There's 6 people with
like
prosthetic legs that need to be there. What?
I feel like a bad person
No.
for laughing.
But I laugh because
it would
like
be unlikely.
very unlikely. I laugh because it's like, what's the chances? But really, no. So that's the only way you can be bumped from those seats.
What if there were a bunch of blind people with a bunch of guide dogs?
Well, I don't know how that worked. Then I guess first come, first serve.
Yep. Book your tickets early, folks.
Yeah. So just know that those seats are reserved for you. So take advantage of it. And if those seats do not get filled by people who are blind or visually impaired, just the general population fills those seats. Or in some cases, they don't even fill them. But just know that you can actually be bumped from them if somebody with more needs those seats, which is totally fine with me. We've never had a problem with that. And one other point with that too, just know that you can have one companion with you in those seats. So if you're traveling with you and your 3 family members, all 4 of you
pick your favorite.
Yeah, pick your favorite, because all 4 of you cannot take advantage of that. Just you and one other person. That's it. So anyway, that's a really helpful one. I always do that, and it's just so nice to be in like row 6 and have all the leg room on the plane.
It is nice. It is so nice. Oh man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other tips, tricks?
I feel like we really did a good job explaining the airport.
Good. Well, hey, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to stick those down below. We have a lot of experience through the airports. We could probably give you some tips in addition to what we outlined in this video. If you have any questions, like if you're going to be traveling and you want to know the best way to approach the airport, feel free to stick that down below. We can hopefully answer any questions for you. Between the 2 of us, we have a decent amount of experience with airport travel. Otherwise, if you just have any general comments or questions, again, feel free to stick those down below.
Or I want to pipe in and say, if you guys have your own tricks and tips about the airport, I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
Tell us your travel secrets.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get us upgraded to first class.
Right.
You never know.
Yep.
Tell us what you do.
Yeah.
What do you do to make travel easier? Because that is literally something that is very important to us.
It is. The airport can be a very stressful place, not only for us, but for sighted people too.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Make your life easier.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Any last thoughts?
No, that was it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Leave any comments or questions down below. And of course, if you're new, subscribe, because that's the only thing you should be doing. So thanks again. See you tomorrow. Actually, no, I lied. See you on Wednesday.
See you Wednesday. Bye.
All right. Bye now.